Today I'll be showing you the most important audio changes in Tarkov 1.0, and my word, we have something interesting to check out with suppressors. We will get to the rest of the regular tests and look at the new TEP 300 in-ears that have been causing some controversy recently, but before that we need to have a look at what BSG have done with suppressors on weapons, because in short it is a big nerf, one that I do think was needed. For those people who are just joining us after many years of not being part of the community, which based on my Twitch chat seems to be quite a few people, previously you couldn't hear suppressed shots over 100 meters, with some very limited exceptions like the Ash 12, but for the most part every run-of-the-mill gun that you would run into, if it had a suppressor on it, outside of 100 meters you will not hear it fire. This has been the case for years and years and years, until now. I was actually twigged onto this by someone in my chat in the first place, and when I went to go and test it, they were indeed correct. You can still hear suppressed shots at 100 meters really quite loudly. Now, clearly I haven't tested everything because that would just take an awful long time. So what I've done is I've picked a selection of different weapons, from the DVL to the M1A, a VPO-215 and an AK with a regular suppressor on it. Basically the stuff that I had in the stash. But what's special about these suppressors, in particular the DVL and the one that fits onto the VPO-215, this is the 366 rotor, is that there is another stat called loudness, which never used to work. Well, spoiler alert, it still doesn't, and the reason I chose these is the DVL is the lowest that I could find at -40 that was actually accessible to me at this point, and the VPO was the highest, I guess the loudest, with -15, and it doesn't seem to make any difference at all which one you fire. But either way, I tested this particular range of guns over a lot of different ranges, so I'm going to play that for you now so you can just hear what that sounds like on each series of weapons. The very last clip at 250 meters will be boosted up because the recording is slightly quieter than I hear it in my headset, and if I don't boost it up, I can't even hear it in my own headphones. Never mind you guys if you're listening to this video without using a noise-cancelling headset or something. So this is pretty interesting. It does mean that we're going to have to be a lot more careful when using suppressors. It's no longer an immunity from any audio spill, and while it probably is a lot better than going loud because it's harder to pinpoint the shots, it's nowhere near as powerful as it used to be. If anybody finds out anything interesting with any of the other guns, especially the ones that are kind of on the fringe, maybe like the SVD, obviously we need to test the M4 at some point, but if anybody finds out anything interesting about the others and how suppressors sound with those, then I'd be all ears. When I was looking at the AK, I did actually check 3 different suppressors as well to try and check the loudness, and the audio profile sounds exactly the same to me with the given variance that you get per shot anyway. Didn't sound any different whether I had the waffle on or whether I was using the regular hexagon one, for example, or the TGP. They all sounded just the same. Some testing that I might do in the future is about subsonic and supersonic ammo, whether they have bullet cracks or not, because I know that BSG were going to be working on that at some point, but I haven't had time to do that now, and I wanted to put out this video because this information is much more important than that is. One last point related to that before we get on to the regular testing is that the reverse bullet crack bug seems to be gone. The bullet crack bug I'm pretty sure is still in the game. I've had it quite a few times in the last few days of streams, but the reverse bullet crack bug used to be when someone was firing away from you, you'd get a bullet crack even though the bullet was going away. It's almost as if the game was just drawing a line through the barrel, and anybody who was caught on that particular line, either backwards or forwards, would get a bullet crack. I was no longer able to replicate it backwards, which is a really nice thing. Forwards, it still seems to work, so if you're in a building or you're behind a hill and someone far away is shooting at someone in between you and the bullet is technically bisecting you but there's something in the way, you'll still hear the bullet crack. I'm pretty sure that's still in the game, but either way, it means that it should happen half as much as it did before. Alright, so on to the regular testing that we do with the various headsets. Honestly, it doesn't really seem like very much has changed at all. The order on the list has shuffled around a very small amount, but that probably is just to do with the allowable error within my testing process, because I am just listening to see whether I can hear it or not. The good headsets still seem to be the good ones, and the bad ones still seem to be the bad ones. One thing that did catch me by surprise was that I can hear walking at basically the same distance as running, near as much anyway, and I thought this was really weird, but it turns out that in my previous one that I did for 16.7, that was also the case there. walking is a lot quieter than running. So these numbers are for a technical maximum range. If you're doing stuff like walking around yourself or shooting, or there's something else going on nearby like a bush rustling or something, you won't hear people out to these ranges. But this is just the technical maximum to give you a good idea of what the actual limit is of these particular movements. So even though you can hear walking at the same distance as running, technically speaking, it is very, very quiet. And a lot of the time you have to even boost it up in some kind of audio program afterwards to actually hear anything. As before, slow walking is about half the range of running and normal walking. Crouch walking is a third off again, and slow crouching is half of that. So it's still audible at about 11 meters at the very fringe. It's more like 8 though. If somebody's about 8 meters away, then you can hear them kind of properly. But at 11, if you're completely still and the ambient noise has died down, you can technically hear them there too. You do have to be a little bit careful of surfaces. I could hear my test dummy much more easily running over metal at those longer ranges and wood rather than regular concrete or road or whatever it is that we're running on normally. And one of the loudest sounds of the game remains the loudest sound, which is jumping, which you can hear somebody at 89 meters away. It's basically when your feet land on the floor, they make that really loud clunk noise, and you can hear that from nearly 100 meters. It is very, very far. A couple of other little tests stayed basically the same. ADS is about 22 meters away. And one that was interesting was opening the backpack. That was very short ranged, and I think it might depend on the gun you're wearing because the gun makes a sort of clacking noise. If you open your bag with a G28, you get that kind of HK clack. So I think it depends on what gun you've got as to how far away you can be heard from. But the bag on its own is really only about 5 meters. It's very, very close, and the sound is very soft and really easy to miss. So you may have noticed down here we have a new line, which is the TEP 300. These are the in-ears, and these caused quite a lot of controversy a couple of weeks ago because they got added to the new Arena Battle Pass that came in. Admittedly in the free section, but it meant that people who don't play Arena or don't have Arena weren't able to get this. And that's still the case at the moment. I do believe they're coming to the game, and I think Big Pipe wears them as well, so you can technically get them from the goons. But currently you can just buy these from Ref. Now, the reason why this caused a lot of uproar, rather than it just being some random item that Arena players can get that regular players can't, is because you can put them underneath the helmets that can't take any other headset. For example, the Altin, or the Masker, or the Vulcan. So I figured it was worth testing these as well, and when I was checking the audio ranges, it seems like the TEP 200 has basically the same audio range as not having a headset in at all. All it really seems to do is change the EQ a little bit, so it makes the background a little bit lower, maybe just a bit different, but the actual audio range for footsteps seemed pretty much the same. But naturally, we're probably never going to be wearing these on their own, and the reason why you want to use them is so that you can use them with something like the Masker. And I do actually have one of these, so I took that into raid in the testing as well and checked out some audio ranges. As suspected, it barely makes any difference at all. I recorded maybe 1 meter of improvement using the TEP 300s underneath. As I said before, it makes the sound a little bit different, but it doesn't necessarily make it any better. So it might cut down ambient a touch and allow you to hear sounds within the audio range slightly more easily than it would without them, but it's not going to give you any extra distance as far as at least I can tell. The other place where they are potentially interesting maybe is with the Ushanka, because you can use them under the Ushanka. BSG have disabled all of the headsets with the Ushanka at the moment, so if you're doing setup like I was the other day, you can no longer use any headsets at all with it. But it's honestly not that big of a deal. Yes, you lose out on about 10 meters of hearing, which kind of sucks, but if you're using a shotgun, you're probably within 50 meters anyway, so I don't think it's really make or break. So there you have it on the audio rundown for this wipe. If you have any interesting information, please do relay it to me. I'm always open to hearing this stuff, and a lot of the time, some things that people say to me, some of them end up being the starts of bigger videos that we uncover something important. So any info, please do send it to me. Otherwise, a big shout out to all my patrons, and as usual, have fun in your raids.